Good day, everyone. I am Gerald Sarmiento Maico, a BAL 1A student from Baguio City. And for today's report, we have the number of journalists jailed reached global and high in 2021. Was recorded to be at a global high in 2021. The report further found that at least 293 reporters were imprisoned as of December 1 this year, said news agency Reuters. Regarding this issue, I interviewed the CPG's executive director, Sir Robert Mahoney, and this is his insight about the issue.
This has been part of a trend of creeping authoritarianism around the world. Governments are becoming increasingly intolerant of criticism, of investigative journalism, of journalists looking into things like corruption. And so one of the ways of silencing those journalists and sending a signal to other journalists who might do something similar is to jail them. The trend has been increasing. And I think it's part of a realization on the parts of certain governments that there is very little political price to pay for doing that. It could be, before one could name and shame governments, governments wanted diplomatic or commercial ties with liberal democracies that upheld these values. That seems to be less and less the case. Although there has been a drop in the numbers of journalists that are being killed, there still are too many journalists who are being murdered for their work. And impunity, the failure of states to prosecute all the killers of journalists, including the people who order the killings, that impunity is a cancer on journalism, and it sends a terrible message to journalists within that country. And so self-censorship becomes a problem. Governments that want to silence critical reporting find other ways which are less likely to attract international condemnation. That is jailing, but also tying journalists up in legislation, bankrupting them with lawsuits. It could be, for example, limiting the means of communication when there's a big story. So we've seen throttling of the internet, that's to say slowing down the speeds of internet so it becomes virtually impossible to upload video or pictures of a protest. China has headed this list of top jailers of journalists for several years now. But what we saw this past year is the effect of the draconian security law that Beijing imposed on Hong Kong. And so now we have journalists and publishers in jail in Hong Kong for the first time. We have documented at least 19 journalists in jail in Belarus, which is a really large number compared to what it was before the crackdown. Essentially, you can't do journalism in Belarus anymore. This is a country on the eastern borders of the European Union, which has become an information black hole. We have instances of security forces firing live rounds into groups of unarmed demonstrators, ramming them with vehicles. We will not know about this unless we have independent journalists out there on the streets, filming and recording what is going on, interviewing those demonstrators. And the military knows this, and so they have essentially rounded up anyone doing independent reporting.
Thank you, Sir Ronald Mahoney, for sharing your thoughts regarding the issue. God bless you and keep safe always. Many people say that most of the imprisoned reporters or journalists are being starved and beaten inside the jail. But there is one person from Myanmar, proved that not all of the journalists was being starved and beaten inside the jail. And this is his statement.
Should I take this off?
No, I'm feeling alright physically. It's just the same privations and things that come with any form of incarceration. You just go a little stir crazy. The longer it drags on, the more worried you are that it's just never gonna end. So that was the biggest concern, just staying sane through that. I was arrested and held in captivity for no reason, so I suppose so. But physically, I was healthy. I wasn't starved or beaten. Yeah. That's we're gonna keep the focus on them as much as possible and do everything we can to lobby on their behalf. We're still trying really hard and hoping that we can get them out of there.
And Danny, why do you think they chose you? Say how pleased I am. This story is about Danny coming home to America, but I also want to thank the Qatari government that is supportive of my foundation that helps secure the release of hostages, American and non-American.
I think sharing thoughts of the imprisoned journalist is very useful. Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts. And it's our pleasure and it's a big help for us to inform everybody that not all imprisoned journalists are being starved and beaten inside the jail. According to the CPG's annual survey on press freedom and attacks on the media, 24 journalists were killed because of their coverage and 18 others died in circumstances that make it too difficult to determine whether they were targeted because of their work. The report by the US-based non-profit further said that the reasons for jailing reporters differed from one country to another, but the record number was reflective of political upheaval around the world and a growing intolerance of independent reporting. This is the 6th year in a row that CPG has documented record numbers of journalists imprisoned around the world. Reuters quoted CPG Executive Director Joel Simon as saying in a statement, "The number reflects two inextricable challenges. Governments are determined to control and manage information, and they are increasingly brazen in their efforts to do so. Some of the journalists who were killed in 2021 included Danish Siddiqui, who died in a Taliban attack in Afghanistan in July, and Gustavo Sanchez Cabrera, who was shot and killed in Mexico in June." According to the CPG report cited by Reuters, China imprisoned the most number of journalists, followed by Myanmar, which arrested reporters as part of a crackdown after its February 1 military coup. Then Egypt, that has 25, Vietnam 23, and Belarus has 19. For the first time, therefore, about half of all journalists imprisoned around the world are incarcerated on anti-state charges, such as engaging in espionage and violating state secrets. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day. God bless.